Hello, conference women. I am really honored to get to do this, and as soon as Monty Joe sent me the topic for this year, I was immediately excited. It just resonated with my spirit right now. If there's ever been a year of transformation, wow, this has been it. Okay, so I'm probably not the only one, but one of the first things that I thought of when I was thinking about transformation was a caterpillar to a butterfly. But the thing that really stuck with me about that is that when that caterpillar goes into the cocoon and comes out this beautiful butterfly, we don't get to see all of those steps. We don't get to see that process. But in our own lives, in our own transformation, it's probably going to be a little bit more public than that. And it's probably going to show all of those things that we really didn't want everybody to see. It's probably going to be messy. It might be ugly. And we kind of have a problem with that. So that's what I want to talk about here. After I thought about that cocoon process that nobody sees, and that if we could see it, we would probably think, yuck, it's probably pretty ugly. I immediately thought of the process of painting. I have the building next door to KSM, and I mainly paint. So, in the process of a painting, it's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of parallels there because it's a transformation. And in the beginning, a lot of times, the first thing that I do is I paint the background, and then I draw whatever I'm going to paint, a little rough sketch. So a lot of times in the beginning, things are going well. I have a vision for what I want this painting to be when it comes to completion. And I'm super excited in the beginning. Starting a painting is so fun. It's every step after that that really, I don't know, sometimes fun, but sometimes not fun. So most every step from the beginning to the end looks bad. It can't be pretty in every step. And so when I was first learning how to paint, I had no idea what I was doing. I really had almost no instruction, or I hadn't developed any kind of a technique. And you're sitting in a classroom and you have an instructor that's watching over your shoulder sometimes, and you have classmates that want to watch you while you paint. And they want to put their 2 cents in, they give you sometimes some unwanted advice and a criticism. That was part of the class. We critiqued each other. We gave each other our little criticisms, our suggestions. And that can be hard to take when you're in the transformation. And it's the same way, really, with the transformation that happens in us. We don't want people to see that ugly stuff. We don't want them to see the messy parts of our lives. We don't want them to know what we look like when we're not ready, when we're not done. Some of the best advice I ever got in painting was just finish it. That was from my mother, and I would be in the middle of a painting, and it took me a long time before I realized I was going to absolutely hate every painting that I started about halfway through. You just want to quit. You just want to paint over it or stick it in the closet and forget about it because it's frustrating. It's not going the way that I wanted it to go. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been trying to cover up these little botched up places, and it's taking longer than I thought it was going to take. So a lot of times in the beginning, what do? I mean, what do you do when you get that frustrated with a project or whatever it might be? A relationship, a church, a business, a ministry. You fill in the blank. What do you do when you get that frustrated and things aren't going well and it's nothing like what you had planned? Well, a lot of times you give up. Or maybe you just feel like you don't have the strength to give it your all anymore. So for me, with a painting, I stick it in the closet or up in the garage rafters. You know, what do you do with things when you just can't hardly stand to look at it another minute? You put it away. You give up. Something that I found out is maybe when I would come back to that painting, maybe a year later, maybe longer, and I'd get it out and I'd put it back on the easel and I'd start working on it. Sometimes it would just be a very short amount of time, like 30 minutes before it all turned around. Sometimes I would finish it in 30 minutes. And I spend a really long time, generally speaking. I spend an entire year painting on a painting, pretty diligently. I might put 20, 40, 80 hours, maybe more into a painting. I've definitely spent hundreds of hours on wall murals. So it amazed me when I would just push through just a little bit longer and everything turned around. And what time I wasted just feeling discouraged. And what I didn't know is if I would have just pushed through that just a little bit longer, it was all going to turn around. And you know what? I don't know that I've ever had a painting that at the end turned out like what I wanted it to, what I thought it was going to look like. Maybe it looked even better than what I thought. I don't know, who could say? But it's the same way in our lives. I can't hardly think of anything that we make plans for that goes exactly like we pictured it. Or it went as fast, just smooth. I mean, sometimes it does. I've had instant transformations happen to me in my life. And those are my favorite, I'll have to say. But most of the time, it's more of a process. So, I just want to encourage you, whatever it may be. Maybe you've got a family member you just want to give up on. And, sometimes you do have to back away. And I'm not condemning anybody. Sometimes you have to have some boundaries, and that's okay. But our God is always a God of restoration. He's restoring everything all the time, if we have willingness. Now, you can't control other people, and God's not going to control other people, so they would have to have just a little bit of willingness too. But God can do a whole lot with just a little tiny bit of our willingness. So whatever the situation is, whatever you're just feeling just bone weary with, be encouraged. Pray for that willingness to rise up in you to just push through just a little bit further. He's too good not to meet you there. Okay, I forgot to read my verse, and it's Philippians 1:6. He who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus, the Messiah. He who began a good work will bring it to completion. A lot of times I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that's displaced. But I don't have enough time to go there. Okay, so Monty Joe, if you have to edit this out, you just have to edit it out. But if you don't, I have a letter I would like to read. And it's kind of long, so I'll have to skip over some parts. But let me ask you this. What if in the morning you went out to your mailbox and there was a letter addressed to you, and it was postmarked, and it was from the future? And you open this letter up, and they're telling you things about your life and your future that nobody can know. And they're telling you these things that you're upset and worried and discouraged about, that it's all going to be okay. That right now you're believing some things that just aren't true. And that it's not really that bad as it seems. And all you need to do is just push through and get a hold of the truth. And you get to the end of this letter, and it's signed by you. It's from future you. What would that do to your life? How would that change your thoughts and your emotions and your actions, your words? How would that change things? Well, I was inspired by a letter in a book of a woman who wrote to her past self, and I decided I was going to write a letter to my past self, and I was going to give it to my kids for Christmas. So I wrote a letter to myself at 9 years old, at 15 years old, 22, and 36. And then it struck me that maybe this might be helpful for someone else. So we have a little women's group that meet here once a month, and I talked to the ladies and I said, why don't we all write letters like this, and I'll bind them and we'll give them to the youth at our church. I just can't imagine how that would have impacted me when I was little to have something like this. So anyway, I'm going to read over it, but I'm going to have to skim over a lot of parts because it's kind of long, and I don't know if I have time. Let me get a drink here. Okay. What I wish I could tell 9-year-old Katrina. Sorry. Katrina, you don't need to hide yourself or your emotions. People aren't laughing at you. You're smarter than you think you are. Listen to me. You are not a monster. That if someone else found out what you were hiding, that they'd just throw up. It's not true. That birthmark that you're working so hard to keep hidden, or at least the parts that you can hide, one of these days, you will sincerely thank God for giving it to you. And I know that you can't imagine that right now, because at every single birthday, when you blow out the candles, you pray, oh Lord, please take this away from me. But you will. You'll thank Him. You'll thank Him for it. Okay, Katrina, men are not all bad. You'll be surprised how insecure they are too. They hurt just like you do. You think you don't need a dad just because you've never really known one, but you're actually longing for a father. You might get to the point where you think you don't need anybody at all, but that's not true either. Don't build those walls up around your heart to keep people from knowing the true you, your thoughts and your feelings. You need to talk. You need to talk about things. People don't know what you're thinking It's not obvious to them like you think it is. You need to learn how to communicate and share your thoughts and your ideas. You're a thinker, but don't go down any path that leads you to worry or just to feel bad about yourself. Let God guide those thoughts. Tell those thoughts what He says about them. You don't need to feel ashamed and guilty all the time. People will like you. Let them get to know you. Not everybody's going to like you. It's okay. Nobody is liked by everyone. That's impossible. You focused on the wrong things. You focused on what you've got going wrong for you instead of what you've got going right for you. But the truth is, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't do everything right, but you're not what you do. Just because you don't always behave well doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. God's not mad at you. He really isn't. He loves you just the way you are right now. You'll make lots of mistakes. It's okay. You'll get wiser. Just learn to learn and be honest and open up. It's okay to be wrong. Everyone is. A lot. If you don't know something, that doesn't mean that you're inferior or less than someone else. That just means you're a human being. Don't be afraid of people. They're more like you than you realize. They feel a lot more like you than you'll ever know. Don't be scared to fail. You will. Just try. Just try. Okay. What? I wish I could tell 15-year-old Katrina. Don't even consider hanging out with a boy. Don't do it. I'm telling you, do not do it. A boy who doesn't know God can't even understand how to love himself, let alone anyone else. But I know you desperately want someone to appreciate you for who you are, to pay any attention to you at all. But a non-believing boy isn't going to fulfill this longing in your life. In fact, it will deepen the agony. It will cause you more pain than you can imagine right now. You need to look to God to fulfill you. He's the only one that can. He's the only one that's going to show you your true worth, your immeasurable value. So spend a lot of time alone with God while you still can. Get to know yourself before you try to get to know somebody else. Get to know what God thinks about you, what He says about you, because it's good. Don't be so critical of yourself, or anybody else for that matter. God is nowhere near as rigid as you think He is. Never, ever, ever compare yourself to anyone. Not a picture, or a movie, or a magazine, or a real live woman, ever. Because nothing good will ever come from that. You're not supposed to be like someone else. You're not supposed to look like somebody else. Be unique. That's truly beautiful. Okay, 22-year-old Katrina. This is a big one. Oh, dear Katrina, don't run. When you screw up, don't run from God. Not even for a second. Don't hide again. When you fall, immediately come back to Him. Don't wait. There isn't some waiting period of time that you can come back and repent. Get back up immediately, as fast as you can, and don't waste any time beating yourself up. That guilt and self-condemnation, it's a trick. It's a trick of the enemy to lead you even further away from God. Okay, please remember this. If you think about it, if you daydream about it, if you ponder on it, you'll eventually do it. Be careful what you allow yourself to think about. Actually, it's all about your thoughts. What's in the heart comes out. Watch your words too. Don't daydream about anything that isn't a godly lifestyle. Even a momentary turn from God can be more trouble than you can imagine. So, Miss 22-year-old woman, you think you're getting your freedom. And that would be fun to do whatever you want and to not answer to anyone. To just reinvent yourself and find some new group of people somewhere that don't know the old Katrina. And movies made it look glamorous, and the world glorified a culture of parties and bars. But guess what? It's all a lie. You're not missing out on anything. Oh boy, is that an understatement. This freedom that you think you want, it's really a cage that you'll trap yourself in if you don't turn away from it right now. It looks really good until you get a closer look. It's really a painful bondage. And it's sad and depressing and hurtful and hateful and angry and hopeless and empty. Don't be fooled by the counterfeits. There's only one real thing, and that's Jesus. And that's what that craving is. There's nothing that's going to satisfy that craving except for Jesus, your Father God, and the Holy Spirit. Nothing. Don't focus too much on your own feelings and these solutions to make yourself or your body something that's acceptable to someone. It won't work anyway, because no amount of products or money or surgery is going to fix what's in here. Nothing's going to fix your thoughts. You have to do that. Your circumstances, your skin, nothing is going to fix you until you get a hold of what's going on in here. Specifically, your beliefs. You've believed a whole lot of lies and you've accepted them as the truth. But someday you'll be comfortable in your own skin and you won't be in all this turmoil. You'll hardly give a thought to this stuff that's just plagued your mind for years. Fruitless obsessions. And all this pain that's come in relationships through movies and magazines and the internet, television, it's going to be a thing of the past for you. It won't consume your thoughts anymore. You'll be peaceful and you'll trust. You'll trust God with your heart. You'll trust Him to take care of it. You won't even compare yourself to anyone anymore because there won't be anything to try and live up to. God's going to be your source. You're going to feel value. And worth because of Him. He's not mad at you. He's really not. He probably never was. He's not the angry God that you always imagined. His arms are wide open for you. Whatever you want to do. You can lean into His chest. You can laugh. You can cry. You can tell Him about anything at all. But don't ever turn away. Go toward Him in every situation, in every circumstance, no matter how ugly it seems, no matter how messed up. He still wants you. And there's a big difference between asking for forgiveness and letting yourself receive it. Okay, one more. What I wish I could tell 36-year-old Katrina. Self-effort doesn't work. Stop it. You're going to need God's help every single day, and you always will. So ask every day, often, over and over if you have to. He'll help you. This is so important. Don't worry about all those accomplishments that you want to accomplish. That's not where it's at. These wall murals and artwork and the gallery, getting your business up and running, renovating the building, these little messes, they're always going to be there. It's nowhere near as important as your role as a mother and a wife. And in fact, most of that stuff won't even matter to you at all in the very near future. These goals that you wish you had more time for, you're so worried about getting things done that you're losing really valuable years to you. You have no idea how important these years are to you. So relax, enjoy, celebrate. Take a deep breath and let your shoulders drop and laugh a whole lot. Don't feel guilty if you're not constantly working. Busy is stupid. I wish everyone could just figure it out. Oh, how you doing? Busy, busy, busy. Busy is so stupid. We got to get a grip. Katrina, you want to help other people so much that you don't realize that these little people that you're raising, they're the greatest gifts you'll ever be given. Help them. Don't worry about helping everyone else so much at this point. You'll minister to people. You will. But you'll minister to people when the time is right and at a pace that won't upset the balance of service and family. Okay, getting down to the end now. Be really transparent with your husband. Really open and honest. You think it's clear and obvious that he knows your insecurities, your stories. He's heard them so many times. He doesn't. It's very difficult to communicate well. Hardly anybody is doing it ever. You think you know what the 5 love languages are and that that's all you need to know. But read the actual book by Gary Chapman. It's going to change your life, your marriage, your friendships. There's so much from that book that you're going to come to understand about yourself. Get it. Okay, don't feel guilty about having time to yourself. You need it. You need uninterrupted time with God. That's not selfish. It's extremely important, and you need to do it more often than you are by a long shot. Follow Jesus' example and withdraw often to lonely places to pray. But you're going to have to be intentional about it because otherwise it just won't happen. You're going to have to carve out that time and block out everything else as much as you can. Matthew 17:5, this is my beloved Son, whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. Listen to him. You have to be quiet to listen, and you have to slow down to be still and listen. You'll be more effective, more productive after you have time alone. So don't imagine you're doing anyone a favor by running full speed all the time. You're not. Okay. I'm wrapping it up. Hang in there with me. I hope this is okay. So important. You will find out that you are wrong about a lot, but you're going to be delighted. You have believed lies, and the truth is so much more exciting and boundless than you ever dreamed. Get ready. Your doctrine is getting ready to be radically challenged, and you're going to love it. And don't hesitate to admit you're wrong. People like that. It doesn't make you smaller in their eyes. Confession is a huge key to healing. It's uncomfortable. It'll make you look bad, but it's the only way to be free, and free indeed. So that's another thing. Watch the entire Free Indeed series, Free Indeed by Robert Morris. It's going to change your life profoundly. Okay. Stop feeling so guilty about how desperate you've been for sleep over the past few years when your babies were little. God's going to heal you of your insomnia. Yes, God heals. And He's getting ready to rock your world. So get ready and get your hopes up. Okay. All right. Monty Joe may have to edit that all out, but if there's anybody that would like to write a letter like that to your from your future self, I would love to read it. Please slip it in my mail slot, because I would really like someday to put all of these letters into a book. I just think it could help people so much. Your testimony is one of the most powerful things you have, and yours is just as good as anybody else's. People need to hear it. It spurs us on. It helps us to push through those times in our life when we're feeling weary. So anyway, thank you all for listening, and I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. Have a good night.